What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and I just got done watching The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. It's on VOD right now. The story follows a young genius level student named Vicaria who makes an attempt to bring her dead brother back who was slain in gang violence. But when he returns back from the dead, like Frankenstein, he's just a whole different beast. And you can imagine how bad that is for everybody around. So that's pretty much the summary of the movie. Without spoiling anything, let me say that. And I enjoyed this film. I think it was really, really good. I think the care and the detail put into it was incredible. It's shot beautifully. It is very traumatic as a black person watching some of this shit, man. Oh, because it takes place in the hood. I'm not even sure like what city it's supposed to be. I don't think I caught it. If somebody does know, let me know below. But it takes place in some city, some regular neighborhood. Like I said, the hood, literally the projects is where it takes place at. And it has to be somewhere in the South because I can recognize what that looks like to me. That looks like a Southern project, the way it's set up. But it's very traumatizing, honestly. If you are a black American or somebody who's lived amongst this type of area, it's gonna be traumatizing. It has a lot of gang violence in it. I'm not saying gang violence. It has depiction of gang violence, and it's done very dramatically in ways that are. It's meant to invoke some type of energy out of you, some emotion out of you. Because I found myself really being taken aback at how the director chose to shoot these particular scenes. Like the way the film even opens up is just like very, very. Oh man, it's just it just hit me in the feels pretty much opening up, and it just continues from there, and you understand how much of a loss the brother was to the family, and you just have to really watch it to see it. Like there are so many authentic moments in this movie of how this kind of area looks like. There's specifically one part where in the beginning of the film, it's like a gang member walks by and they have a bandana tied to, I believe it's either a tree or it's a telephone pole, and he kind of daps the tree up, and that's like very, very, very similar to how it really is. Like I can tell the director and writer knows about this type of stuff because I was kind of surprised to see that. I was like, wow, okay, this is what it is. So I don't want to get into the story too much because it's one that just kind of unravels as it first starts. But let me get back to what I did enjoy. Like it was shot incredibly. I loved that the film grain was cranked up, so it kind of felt like film. It kind of felt a little bit nostalgic with how much the grain was like on a higher level of what they did to the footage. Because I don't know if this movie was shot on film. I don't think it was because most movies aren't these days. It could have been, but I get the feeling that it was shot digitally and they ramped up that beautiful grain, which I really love. Because I don't know why I love that look. I've done it in my short films, and I just really love how films from the 2000s, like early 2000s and before, look, because they have that film texture from the grain. So love how it looked. I feel like the cinematography was done well. Again, the usage of slow motion, where to put the camera, the blocking was all done well. The color grading was all good. And aside from that, I feel like all the technical aspects, the sound design was good, the music was pretty damn well, and all of the performances were good. Everybody who was in this movie brought their A game. Nobody half-assed it. Excuse me. And the one thing that I really do like a lot is this film it's a horror film. Like going into it, I was kind of scared because I didn't know if it was just going to be a psychological horror film where all of these things happen. The brother is back as a monster and he's doing his thing, but at the end of the movie it kind of does away with all of that, and that's just how she sees things. And I'm like, no, it's actually a horror film. Even though it's a double entendre and there's some layers here, metaphors here, it's still a horror movie. It's still gore. It still has a lot of kills that you can sink your teeth into, that you're just like, ooh. Like one in particular involving like a machete. Whew. It made me do like that watching it. So it definitely is a horror film. So if anyone was kind of questioning this movie of what it was going to be, it's a horror film. But like I said, all the performances are done well. The only thing that kind of was like a bit for me is I think the first 15 minutes are a bit heavy-handed in regards to the oppression of the story. Because when it comes to black horror films and a lot of black genre films in general, it's something that they haven't been able to escape. Really, is something being based around the oppression of black folks, which I get it, and I think they show it here because it's more informative for those who don't know, who could think that this kind of stuff doesn't happen, but it really does. So I gave it a pass because it just was doing it in those first 15 minutes a little bit, and it's kind of sprinkled throughout, but nothing too much to make me roll my eyes, because that's one thing that I just really want to do as well. You know, I think that kind of stuff is necessary, being black myself, that is, you know, we talk about oppression and talk about things that we've gone through and how the world is for us, but I also think that there's space to not do that as well, where you can just kind of make a story with black characters in it who are unapologetically black, like we've seen with Jordan Peele films. He's done it fantastically, honestly. But aside from that, I think the monster design is pretty grotesque and creepy, because they don't really show it in the trailer, but you definitely get close-ups here, and it just kind of made me like, oh, like, the way that that's handled. And even when you get a really, really good look at this thing, it's ugh. And there are actually moments that are pretty scary from a couple of different standpoints, you know, from the monster standpoint and just real life standpoints, with them being in this neighborhood. You know, like, if I had to sum this film up, to me it feels like it was created with Atlanta, the series, you know, written by Donald Glover and his team. It feels like this is a child of that. It's especially like the second season and on, when the show starts getting more fantastical and bringing in these other elements. Like, I mean, but the last season was straight up fantastical. It had different things at play, from horror-like situations to thrillers to, you know, eeriness. Like, I feel like Atlanta in general, like the show has grown to be leaning on more, of course, dark humor, but it's very mysterious, and each episode kind of feels more like horror film and more horror-esque to me. And that is what I got from this movie. I feel like the director and writer, because the writer and director, they're the same person. Forgot his name, but shout out to you, great job. But definitely there's the influence in there, and you'll see it off bat. Like, once that you open up to this neighborhood, they do a certain thing there that's like, that looks kind of like, that reminds me of Atlanta, and I definitely feel like that's homage. I don't feel like it's biting, because it's so clear that what they're doing here. Even the director, I'm pretty sure that he would say, like, yeah, I wanted to do that because of Atlanta, because not only is that a thing in these type of neighborhoods, but Atlanta highlighted it, you know, in the first season. So that's what this movie feels like to me, minus the comedic aspect, because this movie isn't funny at all. It takes itself seriously. If you're looking for laughs, it does not do that. It has drama. It's literally a drama horror. That's what I would describe it as. There are a lot of scenes that just, man, just very traumatic. In one of the scenes has to do with like a kid that just broke my heart watching it, you know? And that is the thing that kind of feeds Vicari to do what she does later on. So all in all, full circle film, and the ending was great too. The ending is what really solidified this as being like, this is definitely a horror film, and I like the message that it conveys in the end, you know? It has that layer that is like, you know, about perception of who you are, but it lends itself to the horror and like real life. So I love the double entendre that did. And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The very end of it, you know. So really enjoyed this film. Definitely going into my favorites. One of my favorites of the year. Don't know where it's gonna fall, but this is gonna be one that I buy on Blu-ray. And I just love seeing black horror films. We need more of them. That's why I'm doing my justice to add to this catalog, because there are so many stories to be told. And this was one that was done phenomenally. So, An Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Have you seen it? Let me know in the comments. Be kind, please. You know, I always say that. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.